Hi, everybody. Today we have Reshma Hyder, my mentor, someone who I honestly look up to so much. And she's definitely someone who I want to be like when I grow up. That's very rare for me to say for anyone because honestly, there's too many people that everybody looks up to for many different reasons. Appa, you are someone who has no filter. You've had a journey full of ups and downs. You have given so much, mashallah, to your family, to your friends, to us kids as a mentor, and I'm honestly really glad and grateful that you are a mentor to me as well. So thank you so much for that. And this means so much to me that you are a part of my series. So thank you for supporting.
Oh, I don't know where to start. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Such a lovely pleasure to meet you, Sania. Although I've never met in person, but that's part of my story with all these youngsters that I come across. And thanks to technology, we were able to connect. I'm truly humbled for this beautiful introduction.
I really want other people to know your journey and the way you started, where you come from, the background, what do you do right now? Because yes, I think it's super inspirational.
I'm very well known for nonstop talking, so I will kind of control myself when I speak. But where do I start from? Because I'm at a point where, by the way, when you contacted me for this, I didn't know that, but I'm at a point where when you say that you were basically had some goals in life, some bucket lists too, subhanAllah, that I've actually checked off major bucket lists. And alhamdulillah, it's been a blessing. If someone else didn't know my background, they might say, oh, wow, she's got everything. But I can truly say that I've reached a point where I've gone through struggles to reach that point. And the biggest testament is that I think Allah puts you through challenges. You have to be patient and have good faith, and then He gives you and grants you what you wish for. So I'm going to say what I achieved this year first and then go back to my life. So all my life I wanted to visit Masjid al-Aqsa, Palestine. Because I grew up in the Middle East and I wasn't able to go there. And I learned, Islam as a child. And I grew up between the two most holiest places. There was one more place, but I could never visit. And in my age, I'm over 50 now, to actually achieve my dream and visit in person on the day of Isra Miraj, it's like nothing can beat that. That's my biggest achievement or blessing. But on the other side, I also wanted, I grew up with the grandma. When I was born, the grandma helped me. And I grew up with her till she passed away in my arms at age 12. I was 12 years old. So for me, grandma status is like the OG grandma status. This year, I actually became a nani and a dadi. So alhamdulillah, again, that I also became a somewhat entrepreneur at the age of 8. I wanted to be my own boss, but I never became one until now. I just became a CEO. That's basically, I'm currently a CEO of a technology company appointed by the board, which I never imagined that an all-male board would elect me. But again, like I said, people have goals. I still do have a couple of more goals, but 4 goals in like a few months. I'm a happy camper. but it doesn't come easy. But I wanted to share that with all you youngsters. I've been very blessed to have a privileged life, I would say. Some people think it's not privileged, but for me, totally, it's a privileged life. I'm a daughter of an expatriate. Expatriate is someone who's actually couldn't find work at his own country, so moved out, or whatever reasons. My dad moved out, but he had his own reasons. There was an emerging oil boom happening in the 70s, early 70s. And he, being an engineer, was asked to come. So he moved to Saudi Arabia with my mom. My parents already had 2 sons, but then I was born in Saudi Arabia. So most of my upbringing was in one city, which was the capital. It was a blessing again, because when you live in a capital, things are more structured, things are more disciplined. You're exposed to a lot more network of, diplomats, and if you're a foreigner in a country. So which in my case, I had the privilege of being very close to the Indian Embassy Club. My parents were from India. My mom's side actually was from Karachi. So I also was totally confused, Desi, because being in Saudi, I would spend a month in Pakistan and a month in India. 2 months summer vacation was one in Pakistan, one in India. and love from both sides, Nanyal in Pakistan and Dadial in India, and you have love for both. For us, growing up in Saudi Arabia, in a very, very patriarchal society, very much dominated by men, and a lot of restrictions for women. So that brought us a rebel in us for women, because I was, like I said, I was very privileged. Like, I would stay in a burqa, and I would no permission to drive, I don't see any women working anywhere. But at the same time, I had the privilege of going to Karachi and then to Lucknow and seeing all the women doing everything. Yeah. My nanny would hop on a bus in Karachi and take me along with her. So as a young child, I was like, wow, I would take it as a very curious blessing, very privileged, everything was good. But then going to India was literally going interior. So my Dadial is from a very interior town, somewhat like a village called Sitapur, which is an hour and a half from Lucknow. Right. And my mom's Nanyal is also like it's like a privileged place or honorable place, like Ajmer. So they're basically like a Sufism inspired lineage. So I've been exposed to the religious aspect. So I would go from a modern Pakistan to India, where, again, going back to a burqa, women are not seen outside. There is zamindari, so we're wearing jeans but wearing burqas on top and then hiding from the people, because we're supposed to hide. The women of our family are not seen. But then within that whole atmosphere, I lived, which is actually called a mahal, like a palace. So I grew up in that atmosphere in the summers. Up until 85, when we would go, 1985, we would go. There was no electricity, no telephone, no proper sanitation. So call it camping, call it, wilderness. But I did that, riding motorcycles, because that's a village area, that sneak out and ride a motorcycle and come back, get in trouble with. And the other thing was the humor part. The Urdu word is chirkhani, being very naughty. It was taken as a fun thing by elders. I don't know, our generation is so uptight about all this, but back then you could pull a biggest prank and nobody will yell at you. And that's the attitude that I grew up with. No one restricting and no one showing me the finger that, you can't do this, you can't do that. They would just laugh it off.
Right, but now, I think people are more intolerant, right? That's the problem.
They're intolerant. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I did come from a very strict school. So going back to Saudi Arabia, I went to the Pakistani Air Force School, which was a Pakistan International School. So I was the only Indian in a Pakistani school. And it was a majburi, my parents didn't have a choice. There was no Indian school. I was the oldest in my family. My brothers were actually sent off to the boarding school. They went to one of the top boarding schools in India. The patriarchal thing came up, aap beti hain, aapko ghar mein rehna hai. And I, honestly speaking, I was so naive about it. I did not know I'll end up graduating with a Pakistani degree. And how will I end up in India? Who will accept me? I didn't even think about that until it actually happened. So I graduated from Pakistani school, amazing friends. My classmates were amazing. My friends were amazing. But overall, there was a lot of, you could see, and I don't blame them. And I learned that kind of brought me very close to the importance of education. That what you learn in school actually carries on to who you become. And being Indian in a Pakistani school and watching my siblings. So my younger siblings were in a Indian school between the two countries, while my siblings were studying the Mohenjo-daro, the Ashokas, all the history of India, and wars between the British. So there was a very wholesome kind of social studies curriculum, whereas mine was Islamiyat, where it's more male-dominated structure, and Pakistan studies, which is all remembering every single martyr, the dates of the wars, and all the brainwashing, I would use the word, to create that, nationalism and patriotism, but at the same time, a hatred for the neighboring country, right? And here I am going to Pakistan and India and looking at, I would go, I think I can share that. I would go and watch cricket matches in India where everybody is rooting for Imran Khan. And here I'm sitting in a different country and there are people supporting a different country player and team. It didn't sync well with me. But at the same time, I realized afterwards now that this was all ingrained because most of the people are taught that way. And I could see the people in India, they were like stuck there and they would like affiliate more with a Pakistani player and Muslim player. no matter what he was doing. But anyway, so I basically...
I'm so glad though that you mentioned this point, honestly, because, and I think you will probably vouch for that as well, right? When we move abroad, let's say from Pakistan as Pakistanis, I think our circle, the tight-knit community that we hang on to is mostly Indians. And when we're outside Pakistan, we do not see those boundaries. But when we're in our countries, there's division, there is boundary, there is media, and then you see a complete, like difference.
You don't even believe that they are the same kind, together the same people. We eat the same, we speak the same language, we have the same, jokes. Dressing style, icons. Like some of, if you guys are very young, but some of us had the icons that were the same. We all loved older, Sehgal and Kishore Kumar, and music entertainment was all the same. They loved Noor Jahan as much as Lata Mangeshkar. And I see that coming back where the Pakistani drama has entered the same way, the same level of it. And that's why you see that most of the college kids, whether it's a PSA or an, I don't even know what they call them, ISA, Indian Student Association, they very well gel together. They have combined events, cultural events. Now it's becoming like South Asian studies.
Exactly.
And colleges.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you see the commonalities. And I totally believe that, it's time has come with all the media and all the technology that we need to break all the barriers.
True.
And find the commonalities and build bridges of understanding and moving. And I am a perfect example. Like I was literally a very, very hardcore Indian. My husband was Pakistani.
Right.
But both of us had roots in India. And roots in Pakistan. So we could never stand anyone hating any of the countries because they were the same to us. So I would
love to know that, mashallah, I think so far from what I hear is like, okay, that you had like different, like educational background. Let's say you're studying in a Pakistani school in Saudi Arabia, and then you have this Indian background, cultural background at home, because of your parents, because of your family, but then also because your siblings are studying in an Indian school in Saudi Arabia.
And older ones. My brothers are in a convent in India. A very, very famous convent. Like Amitabh Bachchan went to that school. It's called Sherwood. It's in Nainital. It's a hill station. I actually was so jealous. I was always fighting with my mom. Why didn't you send me there? Because there's a girls' counterpart school too. So they come back with their, spick and span, crisp uniforms. And, my brother's learning sitar and the other ones, I don't know, he was learning. So I would fight and do everything in Pakistan. So I was in debate club. I was in sports. I was in acting. Everything that I could do in Pakistani school. And everything that I could do, I did it because both sides I would see science fair, art and craft, embroidery. I would do everything.
Wow.
I was literally in a point where I was bullied in the school because every time there was a cricket match against India-Pakistan, if India won, nobody would talk to me. If Pakistan won, there would be a circle around teasing me, right? Haar gayi. So I hated cricket. I love soccer. I loved other things. I hated cricket. I was like, this is the worst ever game because why am I being bombarded with these both sides? And I hated cricket. But that's what my upbringing was, that I tried to prove. It's like a imposter syndrome that you're never good. You try. And then especially in school, because some teachers did discriminate. I honestly know what being bullied in school feels like. And I didn't know about it until I came to the US and my kids were going to school and we were the Muslim, we were the minority, and 9/11 happened. And I saw what was going on. I was like, oh my God, it was like a PTSD coming back to me, like, oh my God, this is what I grew up with. And now I could see my kids proving themselves, that no, I'm a good person. I'm not a terrorist. I'm a good person. Believe in me. I can get the grades, or, I can do this. So I can see my older kids going through that because they were in school when 9/11 happened. And maybe to my advantage, I was also the mom in the school and I had just started wearing hijab. So I didn't wear hijab. I started wearing it before 9/11. And I used to do a cultural show, a cultural event for school to educate others. So I would host other countries. And the principal asked me right before 9/11 that year that I want you to do Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Saudi Arabia. So I had 3 countries that I did.
Wow.
In May of 2001, people, the parents, the principal came and said, wow, if you had not done that, we would not be so positively reacting to whatever happened, that there must be something more than what everyone is blaming the country for.
Very true.
right? Because what I did was we had a Ludi dance for Pakistan, played Hadika Kyani songs and, good food, jalebis and stuff. And India also, we had very nicely, done a kind of a very diverse, pluralistic kind of a outlook of India. With Hindus, Muslims, and Jews and everyone, Christians living together. And then for Saudi Arabia, I had a very different perspective of, because I was from Saudi Arabia, so I had all the things in my pictures and posters and the overall structure, like not just Makkah, Medina, but actually other places. So it really encouraged the community to be understanding of, that these are not vile countries and this is not what the media shows them to be. This is what the reality. So it was very modern outlook. And the comparative study was that in California, in public school, in elementary school, we study California basically. So each country was pitched against, what are the highest peaks in Saudi Arabia? What is the highest peak in California? So it was more like a geographical, economical, and societal comparative study of all these countries.
Right.
So, currency, what does a McDonald's cost in Saudi Arabia? What does a McDonald's cost in Pakistan? What is a McDonald's if it exists in Afghanistan? So it was a very interesting.
Okay. This is actually super interesting. And I think it's still so relevant to this day and age as well.
I turned 21.
Right.
4 months later.
Okay.
I was 20 when I had her. But then I had 3 kids by the time I was 24. I was going to school, so I came here on a student visa first, and then I married my husband here technically. So it was basically, I was still on a student visa. And again, going backtracks, I was in India, I was engaged, but I was not supposed to get married. But then in 1990, the things got really bad in India against Muslims. Right. So there were riots, there were attacks. So so I had escaped India from all the, honestly speaking, literally, when we left our dorms in India, it was in an ambulance, pretending that there was an emergency, then going to the only train station between Aligarh and Delhi, getting into a private buggy, pretending to be not Muslim, and then going over to New Delhi, getting off, wearing jeans and, literally pretending to be not Muslim, and then getting out of the country to come to Saudi Arabia. So then I applied for TOEFL and my SATs. Came here. So I came here and so that was, so for me personally, it doesn't matter I had straight A's or whatever. I had a very high TOEFL score. I had a very good SAT score, but still the goal of getting a degree was like becoming farther away from me because I got married. Yeah. And then I was having my daughter. So it was like, okay, I'm going to be a mom. Forget about getting a degree, just perpetually keep studying. And that was, again, because of my visa, I had to study. So I switched my career. I was studying pre-med biochem in Aligarh. Came here and then again, I had these inspiring people around me. My husband was a Stanford graduate. MBA. When I married him, he was an MBA graduate, MBA student from UC Berkeley. Right. I was literally around very privileged PhDs, high-level intellectuals of Stanford. And so basically, when you are around people that are so intellectual and you don't even have a degree, again, the imposter syndrome comes in that, okay, you're nobody, right? But at the same time, at my age, I could cook a meal. So I would and there were no restaurants here. There was just one masjid. I was a social bug. So I would throw parties. I would cook gourmet food, very easily. So I fed a lot of people from Stanford and we would actually throw parties in the campus, Ramadan parties, and I would cook food. And my sister moved in. So then we were 2 of us and raising, 3 of us actually, my husband, my sister, myself, my brother, 4 of us, raising 1 daughter and then my son and then my second son. So 3 kids. I was a perpetual diaper changing person. I wish to be on the what do you call it? The Guinness Book of Records for perpetually changing diaper for almost 7 years. Wow. Because my last baby, my third one was 2004 and then I kept changing diapers till 2007. So from 1991 to 2007, I kept changing diapers. Wow. There was no nanny here.
But I still want to understand that you, mashallah, for example, when you were growing up, right, you already had that rebellious spirit, right? Yeah. And when you turned into a mom, you obviously still were that rebellious mom as well, in terms of upbringing.
Because I saw my mom, because mom had 7 kids, my mother had 7 kids and hobbies were there. Those are the things that I value. The only thing that I missed was having an identity because I was not a Pakistani, I was not an Indian. I was Saudi, but I didn't have a Saudi passport. So I didn't know where I belonged. The only thing that I could hold on to was my religious identity as a Muslim. That was the only thing I held on. I was like, this is my religion. Allah said you can be anywhere. as long as you follow the faith, I could be in America. But in 2000, in the year 2000, is when I actually became a citizen of US. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm not going to take, sorry, my cats are fighting. That's when I first came to know the importance of the privilege of voting. Voting for right, not just like election, but voting for actual propositions and values. And, a lot of the system I came to know, and I to this day, I value that, the legal system, the rights of women, the rights of education, the rights of minorities, everything. I totally believe that Allah put me here for a reason. That's why I wore a hijab and I followed my principle. There were a lot of things I did on the side. When I came here, I was managing property as my in-laws were investors.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that as well.
So the whole Islamic finance concept of no riba and all that was pretty much ingrained. Again, it was, I'm so blessed that I was in Saudi Arabia. One of my dad's friends, he was in Jeddah, but he got the King Faisal Award for Islamic finance. And again, we were in a very interesting environment in Saudi Arabia and Pakistani school that we valued success. If somebody got this award, we look up to them. It wasn't jealousy. It was like, wow, look up to them. Look up to this auntie. Look up to this person. Look up to this appa, that she did this. So we would actually follow in their footsteps. So I came to know, wow, this uncle got a King Faisal Award. That's a big privilege. What was the award for? Islamic finance. Oh, what is Islamic finance? Because we weren't empowered. We didn't have a bank account. The best thing, like even my salary would come in cash and I would give it to my mom. And she would go to the gold store and buy a chain and say, "Beta, tumhare liye chain lenge."
Oh my God. But what was your first investment like? Like apart from the jewelry and the bike? Because I know that for others who might not know, but you are a serial and mashallah, very successful real estate investor as well. So I would really want to know, like, how did you get started in that? And what was your first real estate investment like?
So not real estate, actually. My first investment was when I married my husband and moved, it was the early 90s and the computer industry, was booming, right? And we became the gateway to supplying mainframe hardware computers.
Oh, nice.
Desktops, not monitors, but just desktops, assemble them from here. Because, I'm at the Pacific coast. So there's all these resources like Taiwan suppliers and from China. So we had access to companies that were assembling computers and keyboards and software, and we would actually take orders from Saudi Arabia and ship it from here. My husband had a full-time job, so I became this person. And you're in marketing, so I have interesting things where I would take a sheet and put it like a green screen and put a computer, put it on the side, and sometimes I would put my daughter there. I say size thing to explain to them what the size of the computer thing was, right? And I still have those pictures from literally 1991.
And were you doing the first while you were like a stay-at-home mom?
Stay-at-home mom, student, housewife, and this was basically and I'm not an engineer. Think about that. I'm a science student and I'm studying business and I'm in business school and I was literally studying basic programming. I was such a busy mom that my sister was in the same school with me. My sister and I both would give our homework to our brother. Isko kare, and then he would do a project and we would turn it on. It was like writing programming, basic programming, and then a little bit of Pascal and a little bit of C++. But it was not very much something that we loved. But at the same time, when you're around geeks, right? You become like, it's like a what do you call secondhand smoke? It's like secondhand education. You absorb it, right? My job was to make sure it's packaged well, marketing it to the people, and then the Saudi guy would order. So my first investment was with my husband in the computer industry. Basically, we shipped around 50 computers to Saudi Arabia, and the first payment came of $10,000, or actually $20,000. Wow. That's the net income. It was not the gross amount, but it was basically 20,000. And from that, I made sure, I told my husband I need a car. So I bought a truck. That was our first car. It was a GMC truck. Okay. That had seats so I could put my daughter's seat belt. And then the back end was big enough to put like 5 or 6 boxes and then ship them to the dock and then ship them. That was my first investment. But after the third shipment or fourth shipment, not gonna name, but the payment didn't come. Right. That was a loss.
Okay.
And I was in a process of green cards. I couldn't travel out to chase after the person.
Yep.
So basically till 1993, I was 90 later 92, I was basically I was doing this. And at the same time, I was managing real estate for my in-laws. My husband was busy working and helping out.
Yep.
But that was first time where I was managing a real estate rental property.
How was that experience like, Appa?
It was actually quite fun because again, there was no internet. It was more laid and now that I can sit back and kind of compare, things were so laid back because everything was phone call, paper, mail. So everything took a longer time. It was okay to get a response after a month because you were mailing something or you're picking up the phone and calling someone. It's not like texting and wanting an immediate reply back. It was so laid back. You know what I mean? Like, so there was a life. So you had a weekend to yourself. There was no work. We would go out camping. We would go out partying. You know, there was no restaurants. There were no volunteering. There were no non-profits. Like the amount of, non-profit stuff that I see on the weekend for people like me right now that you're like spread thin. This cause, that cause, you have to go there and show up and, it's not enough just to write a check. You have to be there because then when you go, the other people that they're trying to bring in, it's quite an overwhelming thing. It wasn't like that when we were younger. And that's my older three kids, when I was growing up with them. And then, things were inflation.
I love how you said when I was growing up with them.
With them, yeah.
I love that. It's very beautiful that you say that. It's very beautiful
because there's no manual for parenting.
Very true. Very true.
That's the only thing that you actually literally grow with your child as a parent.
Wow.
There's no degree. Have you ever seen a degree that, you're a certified parent?
Like an experience that shaped you as a person because you were so young when you had your kids, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and I had the energy to be with my kids. But at the same time, I was also the older sibling. So my sister came. The other sister couldn't come. I had some tragedies in the mid-90s. My younger brother decided to go to India for his education. He, after a year of studying medicine, he got abducted and he got murdered there. That was a trauma that I literally, basically with three kids, I lost everything. Like that was the end for me. I was literally in a point where I went to the doctor. She put me on antidepressants for a month and I hated that. I was like, what is this? My mind is racing. And I just gave it back to her. Like, I don't think I can handle this. I went back to masjid and, I said, what would I do that would bring me comfort?
Wow.
I couldn't bear, because I was a mother and I could not bear seeing my mom go through this where she had 6 kids alive. Losing one child made her life completely upside down. Sorry. And to have the trauma, of, and not just my brother, his classmate, both of them were abducted. And again, when I came here and I hear like, gun victims, it would trigger something because my brother was a victim of too. He went and it was a scam for, against students where this person was basically milking money out of students who got into med school and then called their parents that, oh, pay me money, otherwise your child is a Muslim, they will have discrimination, I will protect them. And then like my sibling, my brother found out that it was a scam. There was no such thing. So he went and said that, okay, give my parents' money back. And that's when they got abducted. But the whole thing came out, as a full-on scandal. The person was behind bar and, things were taken care of. But that exposed me to the importance of education. And why I'm talking about it, because if recently, there's a whole story about what happened here in America with all these stars and people of influence paying college, college admissions, and they're going to jail, right? For putting their kids to so much of trouble. Like I have sympathy for some of the students, the girls, their moms spend money and the girls didn't even know the parents paid money to get their college admission embellished by the internal all of that is sometimes we just don't realize what's at stake because what happened? The mom ended up in jail, the reputation of the family is at stake.
Yeah.
All these things, so you can't, the education is a really, really important pathway. And if you're not honest and, about it and you don't have the right guidance, that's when my life turned around to becoming a mentor for my younger sibling, and then everyone in Saudi Arabia feared sending their kids to India.
Yeah.
They would send them to Canada. They were like, oh, we're not sending our kids back home. They might end up being what my brother went through. So unfortunately, that's when I had two things. One was my focus on education and mentoring youth to finding out what they want to do and then sticking to that no matter what. And then having that knowledge that, oh, this is not true. If somebody's saying you that you have to pay to get into this, no, no, no. So kind of dispelling the misinformation about admission, college admissions. I did that. The other thing was that, okay, if you have lost a loved one, how do you cope up with that? How do you go on with your life and not let your loved ones, be thankful for what you have? So that's when I started doing a lot of volunteer work just to keep myself busy. Every time I was alone, even though I had three kids, my mind would go back to my sibling and the trauma. So I would just kind of keep myself busy, constantly reading books, learning something. That kind of mustered into this whole process of finding nonprofits, finding causes to support, and then in my heart dedicating it to my deceased brother that he didn't have a life that he could live and do all these things. So if I'm doing something, that could be a sadaqah jariyah for him, even if I'm not earning money.
Yep.
And this is what I'm basically doing. So that's basically one of the things that I managed. I said, okay, fine. I took a break from college. I took a break. That was also kind of a privilege because I was in San Jose. I transferred from my community college to San Jose State.
Yep.
I was a student, first year student in 97, end of 97 when my sibling passed. So that was a trauma. So I had to take time off, let the university know. When I joined, there was no internet. Yahoo had just started. Microsoft was getting into this whole, software platform. Oracle was, we were literally testing PeopleSoft at San Jose State. And my husband at that time had finished his MBA. He was done with his early jobs. He was in a very nice company, semiconductor company. And also at the same time, they were Muslim-owned incubators in Silicon Valley.
Oh.
I learned about real estate because I also come from a background in Pakistan, in India, and not Pakistan, but India, from zamindari, looking at the foundation structure, how you can look at a property and figure out if it's good or not. But then I came here and the real estate is totally upside down in the US. In Saudi Arabia, we moved every time there was a new location, the value is higher in a new location, new home. In America, I come here and I find out, oh my God, the most expensive piece of real estate is Hillsborough or Palo Alto, where HP Garage, nearby that. And I go there and I was like, wow, these are so old homes. What's the big deal about this? And I found out the value. So the real estate system I learned pretty fairly quickly. And my husband had actually already started investing. When I married him, he already had an investment property. But with job and kids, and the funny thing that he used to say, मैं पाल पोस के बड़ा कर रहा हूँ अपनी बीवी और बच्चों को.
Right.
So he was training me on the financial part because he did MBA in finance. Mashallah, he actually was under Janet Yellen, who's actually the economic queen right now in America, running the whole country's economic plan. He was her best student, by the way, at Berkeley.
Right.
So
okay.
He would come home and I have all these piles of books and about leveraging, financing, all these things. But at the same time, I was very gung ho about Sharia compliant, no riba financing. And at the same time, I didn't have a license, but I was managing rental property. So that was my thing that, from leasing it, tenants coming in, so tenant management, property management, renovation. Every time a tenant would leave, I would have my own people. So I learned the skill set. It was a very masculine, manly world because I would have to, but I wasn't wearing hijab. I was pretty modern in the early days. So it became as like, a brown girl telling my fellow brown Mexicans, most of them were Hispanic, to work and, paint the place or replace things. But the aesthetic, I was there. And then I was very lucky to have one of my tenants for the longest time, for 9 years, was interior designer. So I learned a lot from her and, in adding some value to the property. It's kind of like you have a basic structure, but how you maximize on investing and take the maximum out when you sell it. So that's what I became interested in, although I was managing it as a side thing. It was for my in-laws. But after managing it for almost like 8-9 years, it was my father-in-law's. He came and actually kind of just handed me down the whole thing that you manage it. This is it. And so I started doing that from 1998. 1998, I sold my house that I was living in for a bigger house. So I kind of like a personal residential investment and the rental investment I was doing side by side. And I honestly never thought of it as a job, as a career. It was literally this past 5-6 years when I started actually mingling around real estate investors and then talk about, refinancing or, investing in a property, finding out, identifying properties, that one of the persons said, look, wait a second, how long have you been doing this? Because I would say, okay, I'm a real estate investor, recent one, commercial real estate, but they would then see me remodeling. They're like, how long have you been doing this? And then I would go back and say, well, 1991. They're like, and you're not putting that on your resume? So one of my mentors in real estate said, why aren't you putting this down? I said, well, I didn't earn an income. Said, well, that was your income, right? That was
your
but because it's when we file taxes, it's like you're allowed to have a second income or third income as a residential rental property. So I never registered it as an LLC or in a private business. So this is where I'm sharing the imposter syndrome comes in. Where you don't know that you actually have that value system in you. Like, for instance, I say I'm not an engineer, right?
Yeah.
But you give me a computer, I can assemble it from, the hard drive and everything in it. And I've been doing it for my kids. But it's like sometimes we undermine as women that, oh, that's not a women's job, or I can't put that. I can, assemble something, or I can build something. But we should not undermine ourselves. That's the thing. And then also with finances, that if you have even managed something, there is a career called property management. I never put that on my resume until much more recently, because I had a mentor who literally digged through what I did because I was trying to get back to work.
Yeah.
This was 3 years ago when I lost my husband. I was like, let me just rediscover what I've been, because I was literally taking care of him for 11 years. That also became, again, for 11 years, I'm a cancer caretaker and also managing property. And I come across oncologists and I start speaking. Sometimes they come up and like, are you a doctor? Like, no. But then when I tell them I've been taking care of a cancer patient for 11 years, it's like, okay, you probably know more than average people about, cancer care, hospital care, triage, ER, everything, hospice care, end of life. So I literally am now at a point where I don't, like I said, I'm no filter. I don't have the degree, but I have that experience.
Yep.
I have that experience, and if I can share it with anyone on that topic, it's sometimes they say Jack of all, master of none. I say, well, I'm not Jack. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a master of everything. Queen of networking, whatever you call it.
I love that.
And not have to wear all these, degrees and everything in your. It's just irrelevant. Yep. And that's literally helped me trajectory. Like, for instance, I moved into education to talk about problem solving, because when you're at an age where you are a mom, you're busy, you look at problem solving. So they say Urdu mein kehte hain jugaad. So I was
exactly
jugaad lagana. I was always doing that. And I was misfixed, by the way. I don't believe in throwing things off. If you can replace a wire on a toaster, I'll go to the Home Depot, buy a wire, put it in there.
I think jugaad is a very inherent sort of a thing that we have in our culture, right?
And if you have lived in India or Pakistan, there is no concept of throwing things and buying a new thing. You repair it, right? Because you have a kabadi wala, he buys things from you, and then you go to your shop and they replace something inside and it's fixed, right? And here in America, the whole concept was, throw it away and buy a new one. And I was like, why? Why would I buy a new one?
True.
And then that's where the financial knowledge came in. Even when it comes to cars, like, why would you buy a new car? If your old car actually at least depreciates, but it also lowers your monthly insurance and your payments. It's a financial part, the financial know-how very much played in my life, that, you really budget things. One thing that my husband and I loved was traveling. So we would have put money aside for travel around the world with the kids. Just take that as a moment to enjoy. Don't try to perfect everything, because what I'm seeing now, what's happening is that, we need to have that Instagram moment going along with us. So we have to look perfect. We have to do this. We have to do that. Plan it out. Be organized, but don't be upset if that perfect Instagram shot is not taken.
Yeah, true.
Enjoy. That's the thing I'm talking about in terms of the calmness and enjoying life, and not be always on the forefront. Like, people do look at my Facebook and think that I'm always finding fun. No, my real life is very stressful, but I sometimes post fun things because some of my loved ones like to see me happy. I just post the fun things just to keep them quiet.
There's one more thing as well in your personality, mashallah, which I've seen like so far from the interactions that we've had and also this conversation right now, that even though you've had many, many ups and downs, personally, family-wise, your husband, your brother, I think those instances are enough, honestly, to shake you up as a person. And you can either go this way or you can either go that way, right? Because you've seen the worst in your life. But I think
I've seen some very serious things.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think with
uh,
you, what I'm understanding is that you have this, light-footedness, where you carry on with your life in a very like, theek hai.
one thing I'll share. So when
Yeah.
I started my entry into causes, nonprofit. So in 2002, I co-founded a helpline for battered women called MISA. I was under the privilege that there's no such thing as Muslim domestic violence. For Muslims, basic culture, it's always men is the leader of the house, the women is the queen of the house. One person, it's like a company, you're the CEO, there's never two CEOs. Wife could be VP, wife could be CEO. And when the nonprofit part came, because it was a shock for me that someone I knew so close went through a very, very sudden divorce. And I came to know that there was a need for domestic violence helpline and all that. I was back in school, 2002. I went back to San Jose State, and I was in business school studying finance and accounting. One of the projects was to create your own company. And I came to know that nonprofits were a company. I didn't even know that. So that kind of brought me into this whole nonprofit sector, and you can still make a living out of being in a nonprofit. We were at a point where my husband's salary was such that, if I started earning, we would go into a different tax bracket. He hated that. We already had this business. We were kind of offsetting our taxes with that. So I was again geared into learning finance and accounting and going towards a CPA. And from that on, when I started the nonprofit work, one uncle who's a mentor to me, he was running this nonprofit, largest relief organization out of India, in Palo Alto. So he gave me a statement. He says, "Beta, once you become in this nonprofit fundraising cause line, you have to become like Teflon, and don't let anything stick to you." So everything just flows. So nothing sticks to me. So that's how you can move on.
True.
Teflon,
you also have a sense of humor, where you're not taking things like straight to the heart. You're just like, okay, how do we convert this into a situation which is
opportunity, like exactly. That's the jugaad part, right?
True.
Making the best out of every opportunity.
Yep. But Abba, now that we've talked about your investments, right, in real estate, your first business with your husband,
education. So we invested.
Exactly.
So that was our first step into School City, where I came home and I said, well, I wish there was a software, there was a web page for schools. He said, oh, let me go back to my team of incubators and things, and I'd come back. He comes back, he says, yeah, I have a product ready. Can you go to the school? So I went to the school where my kids were, and I volunteered. And so we came up with a solution for web page, first web page for teachers to have, right, and school. And they came back, the IT person came back, he says, oh, it's so hard to educate teachers. They don't even know what a Word document is. They don't even know how to upload and type. So it's going to fail. So I came back, I told my husband it's done. And then a week or 2 weeks later, they came back, they said, we have another problem. We are taking manual attendance per child in our public school in every classroom, and the paper goes to the office, then the secretary transposes it, then it goes to the district office, then the teacher's salary are paid based on the attendance. Can you automate that? Can you make a database? And I said, well, I have no idea. I was in MS-DOS classes and all that, but I went back to my husband. I said, here, there's another problem. And they think you guys can solve it. Create a software. So he came back. They have a software. So they started doing that. And sooner the word came out, oh, there's a school that's using it. Let's take it to the district level. From the district to the county level. From the county to the state level. One problem was being solved. Fundraising was happening. My husband was an MBA student, graduate. So he, mashallah, raised, I think first time he raised 9 million for that company. Wow. So, and then that's basically the whole entry of, again, hilarious. I became a startup widow. When you have a husband doing a startup, you became a startup widow because you don't see him. There's no time frame, pressure, raising funds, success story, hitting the bottom line and then raising something else. Losing shares, getting more investors, losing business, gaining business. long sales cycles because you're in education. I came across all that as a side person because my focus was still on kids. I had another child. My fourth one was born, and I was very busy with. I actually had graduated in 2004.
Oh, nice.
With the fifth child. After fifth child, I had founded a startup, the nonprofit. I was totally busy in that. For that one, I had honestly, like 2002, when I started that, I literally took it as a professional. So I had to have a branding, I had to have a helpline number. I had to go through the mentors to go 10 years ahead. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I said, you know what, tell me whatever you guys did so I don't make the early on mistakes. I'm really, really thankful to the existing organizations that put us at a point where we were very quick. In 2002, I was working. 2005, I did the biggest fundraiser. After that, we raised the largest amount of funding to actually have a shelter. But in 2007, it all backfired on me where FBI was at my door questioning because some Islamophobe put out there that, oh, this organization is a sham because the founder is a Muslim. And in Quran, it says it's okay to beat the wife. So how can the domestic violence organization exist? They must be a sham. They must be raising funds for terrorism. So call the FBI. So because I had registered it, they landed at my house. And that freaked everybody else in the house. So my elders in the family said, you know what, just don't do this. So I resigned. And although I resigned, but that whole concept of helping never left my doorstep. So even now, as I speak, last night, I was for 2 hours with two different, I would say, victims of domestic violence. Even the organization doesn't know. I get calls, I get people calling me, and there are all sorts of people, elderly, neighbors, men, women, kids. If there is a domestic violence issue, I do get contacted. And speaking of trauma, I have gone through a situation where it was not even a Muslim. There was a victim of domestic violence, an attorney who was about to be attacked by her husband, came to kill her. I intervened, and she basically got saved. And then I stumbled upon the longest struggle for me to be the eyewitness in a case where in domestic violence, if you're not an eyewitness, they let go of the abuser and they go and finish the job. So I had to be there for 3 years as a court witness for this lady. And life comes to full circle because she's an attorney, and many years later, she came back to help me when I needed an attorney. So never ever underestimate what you do, what you serve, who you meet, because things come back to help. There's always a divine intervention or something. If you have good intentions, it always comes back to help you. So that's basically, in short, like my nonprofit work. So from then onwards, I started Hikma, which was a college academic career pathways. I joined Open Silicon Valley because I graduated.
Before you go into that, Appa, I have to really mention that, you know, with your journey on helping victims of domestic violence, it really hits close to my heart as well. And it is so, I mean, for me, it's really inspiring to see the work that you're doing. And for me to even hear that, you know, until yesterday, and I mean, many more people that you're going to help as well, you know, so I just want to say thank you.
It's so sickening. Like, I cannot believe in 2022 I'm listening to what I listened to is like, this is not happening. Why are people doing this? Like in our culture. And I'm also very thankful to a couple of other women, like young girls like you, like Kamal, she has a Soul Sisters going on. That's one platform that people can at least have an outlet to share what they're going through. Imagine the thousands of people that are not even having that outlet. Right? It's a sad situation.
It really is. It really is.
We have not reduced the cases of domestic violence or reduce the case of divorces. We're at a different level, and may Allah guide everybody, because we were there as home. We were labeled as homebreakers, but we were there as home sustainers because we also had a anger management program. We had the 5-hour mandatory coursework before couples got together. But even then, there is so much going on right now, which is unbelievable. And especially pandemic has kind of added the fuel to the fire with, people being forced to stay together, husbands waking up, women waking up, like, what do they do? Women are suddenly realizing that they did so much in terms of, homemakers. All of that is playing around. That's where I feel like I should speak up a little bit about, toning down.
You should.
And be privileged and be happy with your role. There's a reason Allah made you the mother, Allah made you a wife, Why aren't you happy being a mother and wife,
Very powerful.
And yeah, and then look at me. I never went into mainstream career. I did for some time, but every time I put priorities. If it was affecting my family, my kids, I would resign. On the outside, it might look, oh my God, she had so many different careers. She quit. My priority was my family, my kids when they were growing up, husband, his sickness and everything. But I'm at a point where I went back to work 3 years ago, went back brushing up my resume, looking at investments, what I can do, getting back to my real estate, converting it more into a commercial real estate. All of that, I didn't give up on that. I said, fine, let me just be current because that was my dream to become a CEO one day of a company or, like I said, travel the world. For quite a long time. I wasn't able to travel, but visit Masjid al-Aqsa and honestly speaking, there are two things that are really close to me. One is Kashmir, the other one's Palestine, because I'm from India, Pakistan, and for the longest time, and I'm at an age when you hit 50, all the 25-year-olds, when you hit 50, you need to make some goals and you need to see and check off those goals at 25. If you are not reaching that point and you're not making an effect government-wise, there is something wrong. And that really was a shakeup for me. When I turned 50, I was like, wow, all my life I heard Palestinian plight and Kashmiri plight. What have I done? Nothing. So I went to Palestine and I tried whatever I could in my capacity to create awareness. I took the privilege of being an American, being there, outraged at how I was treated, and then coming back and not giving up on the plight. And as I speak, you can see what's going on, but at the same time, what's happening in Kashmir.
Yep.
And so that's the thing that I feel like there is some perspective to life that you've and all. It's okay. The other part was getting my kids married and all that. That's just part of life.
Yep.
And I'm not very, again, nothing sticks to me. I'm not very particular about the typical Desi parents. Although alhamdulillah, my kids are.
I know.
Well, my boys are doctors, which is every Desi parent's dream. I didn't force them to be doctors or go to medical school. Again, I exposed them to STEM, and it turned out they wanted to do that. But to all the parents, as long as you're happy and your kids are happy, just gear them towards what they're interested in. Find out early on in education, and that's why I was in a privileged position to choose what I would invest in. So I invested in advanced robotics in Pakistan. I'm just an advisor from outside. I've been helping them outside, but my goal is to lift up the public school system in an emerging market like Pakistan and lift up, again, as from a point of innovation and startup, as a customer of developers out of Pakistan. I feel like there's immense amount of talent in Pakistan, immense amount of talent in the kids. And if we don't start it at the grassroots level and educate and change the curriculum or update the curriculum, we will not be preparing the youth for the future.
And I completely am on board with that, honestly, because there's so much you can do with this whole new era that's coming out of this. And
then the other part is a work from home thing. The real estate. I kind of stumbled upon this. I'm currently the CEO of ZenSpace. ZenSpace is providing on-demand workspace anywhere. It's like Uber for work. At the height of pandemic, this company was about to close down, and we kind of geared it towards a different level. And then I come in. First of all, I joined the board with all men. I'm the only hijabi there, and I really thank the founder and having trust in me, because they looked at my knowledge of, again, not a degree, not a license, but knowledge of real estate, commercial real estate. And the other thing was just the actual network that I have to open, a network of investors and mentors. I'm really thankful to everyone who trusted me on that. It didn't put that label of the three strikes. I call them Muslim, mom, and mature. These are three strikes that against every startup. You had all three. Wow. And that's why I feel like if I can do it, you can do it.
Oh my God.
Because there's no end to it. And I have a poetry I wrote that in life, if you never ask, you'll never know, right? The best be a yes, the worst may be a no. It matters that you did not let that chance go. You asked and you got to know the yes or the no, right? And that's what I feel like
I love that so much, Appa.
And I added on to that, what's best for you may not be from a yes or a no. Let the journey of life take its course. Speak your truth. Go with the flow. That's what I'm doing. I just go with the flow.
I love that. I love that so much. Oh
right?
my God.
Because
Agreed.
I personally speaking, like I've achieved, what I had 29 years of marriage. I had a wonderful husband, although it was very difficult, but still, I mean, looking at all the disasters that I see, 29 years of marriage is a very good track record.
Oh, mashallah, mashallah.
And 6 kids, I had the privilege of raising, mashallah, wonderful kids.
Mashallah.
My bucket list was, these things I was able to do. Alhamdulillah. So for me, it's just basically let the journey of life take its course and, just go with the flow, but speak your truth. I can honestly say, people who know me from childhood, they will say I'm still the same person.
Wow.
Still the same. I haven't changed. I haven't changed at all. Maybe a little bit more stronger, speaking wise. But that's something that I tell all the youngsters: cherish your friendship, cherish all your friends, because they will come back. You will come back with your friends. You will be the same. And I love meeting my classmates, my college mates, my roommates. Alhamdulillah, we cheer each other up. No ounce of jealousy. We just, from Pakistan to India, from Saudi Arabia, I have all my friends online. And the blessing that I see right now is the value of time.
Very true.
Because
very true.
Time is which you can't buy for money.
That is very true.
And
on that note, so one word that comes to your mind when I say, what should people in their 20s invest their money in?
Experiences.
What should they invest their time in?
Networking.
And what should they invest their energy in?
Making good use of health. Investing in health.
And I'm sure, actually, honestly, that people, whoever listen to you through this, will definitely take away so much, whether it's about personal learnings or professional or the sense of humor.
I didn't even get to my weekend gig, which is a whole different story, but that's my letting go hobbies, basically.
I love that. So that means you have other outlets as well. So, and that's really good.
Yeah, of course.
That is.
I beat drums. I'm a dhol player. I can play dhol for like 5 hours and sing along with it too. All the shadi songs.
What's your favorite song on the dhol that you really like playing? I
actually do shadi songs. So, the Punjabi, I'm not a Punjabi person, but there's Indian songs medleys, but I actually do the wedding one that I really do is the Lakke Di Chadar.
Okay.
On dhol.
Classic. OG. Aye.
Because but I can play drums on even Backstreet Boys, everybody. So I've actually played dhol with American kids singing songs. So it's just beats, right?
True, but I mean, in my
and you just reminded me, one of my pet peeve dreams is to go in San Francisco on the Embarcadero, Fisherman's Wharf, sitting there with my dhol and singing my heart out, and people just coming and listening. That's one of my goals. I'm still cooking up the courage to get some other aunties with me to do that. Because I think
I want to be present
stage,
for that.
Fear.
Please.
Yeah, please come. At that auntie stage, you just have no fear. So do it.
Oh my God. I want to be there when that happens. Seriously. Yeah.
We'll have the audience sitting and then we'll perform. I have 2 or 3 aunties with me.
Let's do that.
So we have a weekend thing. So that's an outlet. I do gardening, I do cooking, so all these things. And now it started. Yeah. But thank you so much.
I don't know Alpa. Oh my God. I've loved this so much. Turn out. I've loved this so much. Thank you so much.
Inshallah, if I could be of any help to any of the listeners, feel free to contact me.
But thank you so much
25-year-olds
for giving us a piece
all
of your
the best to you guys.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Take care. All the best to you.